Hello, my name is Jody Lowe, and this is the Leadership Lowdown, powered by the BBB and You and Improved. The Leadership Lowdown cuts through the clutter and gets to the heart of what makes businesses tick. We want to share the stories that matter to you, all of the successes and triumphs and all of the pitfalls, and everything that happens in between. So with that, let's get on to today's show. Today, I am so excited because I am sitting across from one of my favorite humans, Mr. Chris Sharfner of C&J Professional Cleaning Services. So welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's not every day that somebody takes an interest in toilets.
My friend, what I can tell all of our listeners is this. If you want a fun, entertaining next, call it 30 minutes or so, tune in because this guy is fun. So, Mr. Sharfner, I have known you, I think we've done the math. I don't know if we're at like 10-ish years maybe.
I think it might be actually closer to 12.
Yeah.
My timing's off because of, the pandemic. And I'm sure that most people are like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know. I think the last time we did my podcast was like 2018, 17, 16. Something like that. So welcome. So happy to have you in studio and
Thank
so
you.
excited to share some of your story. As my little intro said, our goal here is to be able to share a little bit about your background and what it takes to be successful and what you've learned and all those good things. So start us off a little bit. Where are you from and how'd you get to Arizona and all of that good stuff?
I am originally from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised there. And I actually ended up passing on a basketball scholarship and a academic scholarship to Purdue to go to the Air Force.
Nice, thank you.
Serve our country. I was a pararescueman for 4 years, and got tired of getting shot at and jumping out of perfectly good airplanes.
Yes.
For very low pay. I love supporting our country, but at some point, you're either staying in or you're getting out. I chose to get out.
To get out.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
real quick, before we even go any further, what was that decision like? Not going to Purdue and the scholarships, and how did that feel?
Yeah, I'm not a very smart guy. Purdue's an engineering school. I don't see myself as an engineer. I never did. The education, I'm sure, would have been stellar. And then as far as my basketball scholarship went to Xavier, I knew I had the skills to play basketball in college and put myself through. I just didn't know if I had the skills to go pro. And so I actually, before I got my commitment letter, I signed up for what's called the Delayed Enlistment Program in the Air Force. So I signed up my sophomore year, and I've always been a commitment guy. So if I tell you I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. And so I skipped those two and went straight to the Air Force.
Wow. Well, I'm sure there were lots of learning lessons through that experience. And then from that, you get out of the Air Force and you do what? What was the next step? Because this is fun. This is fun stuff.
I get out of the Air Force, and believe it or not, looking at me, I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. I became a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch.
Which is hilarious.
So could you imagine me standing there in a shirt and tie trying to talk numbers and stocks and bonds and investing with people?
Right.
A little scary.
Yeah.
I was successful, but I hated the job.
Yeah.
I really did.
Not
it's kind of like cleaning somebody else's yacht.
Yeah. No.
Not sexy.
Not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it. So I did that initially, and then I got into the commercial collections industry, which collections, unfortunately, has a very negative connotation.
Yeah.
I was very successful there until my CEO told me I made too much money for how old I was.
Oh.
I said, you set the goals, I crushed the goals, you pay me. I thought that's how it normally works. He had a different idea.
Yeah, got it.
And so I was done with that, took $500, and I opened up the company that you see now 22 years later.
22 years. So why janitorial? Where did that even come from?
Jody, you got to love the toilets. No one loves toilets, okay? Anybody that says they love cleaning, I question that. Maybe you might have something wrong with you. Okay. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it was never a goal of mine to open a janitorial company. I can't sit here and tell you that because that's just a damn lie.
Yeah.
Okay. What I did was I did some research, and I wanted to find companies that had projected residual income, something that I could get involved in, and I always knew that I only have two hands. So my business is only going to be as successful as I scale it to be. And I need to find a model that I can create to where I am sustaining myself and my business 24/7, regardless if I am doing anything or not.
Yes.
And
Well,
that's what I fell into.
we're not there yet in our little conversation. However, you are the master of that. So that is part of the conversation yet to come. But before we get there, so you start the company, $500, and what were those early days like? And then how did you grow your team?
Oh man, it was nuts. It was out of control. So I'd be out there in the daytime, essentially selling, knocking on, hey, do you have a janitorial company? Yeah, we do. They suck. Oh, okay, great. Well, hopefully we won't suck. So, I'm selling in the daytime, and they had no idea that I was the one personally coming back to clean it at nighttime because I had no employees.
Interesting.
And so I'm a very detail-oriented person. And so I would sell in the daytime, and I would come back and clean at nighttime. We're talking 18 to 20-hour days.
Wow.
It was pretty brutal.
So not afraid of hard work there, sir.
Not afraid of hard work. And you know what? Anybody who is doing anything on their own, as you know, it's a lot of hard work.
It is.
And then when you have your fun time, max it out.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I earned this.
Yes.
And so from there, I just kind of scaled it and continued to grow until I oversaturated myself personally, which made me have to actually start hiring. And of course, I hired wrong. I'm hiring college kids and wondering why they're not showing up on Friday night to clean.
Yeah.
Because again, not a smart guy. And so it took some trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
And we worked through it, and here we are.
So it's been 22 years, and
Yes.
you've grown a very successful business.
Yes.
When you look back at that, what are some of the key, because obviously a lot of our listeners are potentially business owners. Maybe they're just starting out. Maybe they're seasoned. When you look at the trajectory of your business, what are some of the key elements that really helped catapult you to see the success you have today?
That's a great question, and I get asked that all the time, from this morning in the gym to family members just sitting down like, man, how did you get here?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I know that we live in an age of technology and things are changing, and there's so much on a global landscape that we have to adjust to. I will tell you right now, old-fashioned values and work ethic cannot be beat. Person-to-person contact and relationships, there's no replacement for that. Because at some point, you're going to screw up.
Yeah. Yep.
And you need to be able to look somebody in the face and say, hey, I'm not going to let that happen again.
Yes.
Okay? Do what you say you're going to do. Be where you say you're supposed to be, and be accountable. Anybody who's writing you a check, they don't want excuses. They want results.
Yeah.
And as soon as you understand that, then I think things get a lot better for you. If you're afraid to work hard, you have no business working for yourself. Go punch a clock somewhere.
Yep.
And I'm just being honest. Because what will happen is ultimately it's not going to work. And I already had those values growing up, plus the military, which aided me very well. And so I was able to think and forecast. I never wanted to continue to work personally. So I spent a lot of time working on my business instead of working in my business.
Yeah,
And those
so
are two different things.
Talk to us about that, because I know that that's a key component in life philosophy for you.
For me, working on your business means what are you doing on a daily basis to ensure that no matter what happens to you personally, that business is sustainable. It can continue without you, meaning that now you have what 99% of people don't have: time and money. I know a lot of guys that have money, they have no time. I know a lot of people that have, time, they have no money. So, even a surgeon that makes, $1,000 an hour to operate, if they're not operating, they're not being paid.
Right.
My goal was to make money while I'm sleeping, while I'm on vacation.
Yep.
Whatever I'm at, I need to be making some money. Somebody needs to be working, and we need to be doing a good job.
Yep.
And that was always my focus. And so getting the right people in the right seats on the bus, trials and tribulations, you have to be humble.
Yeah.
Because we all go into it think that we're doing it right. We're not. You know, I thought I didn't suck for a while. I did, you know, and you have to constantly reevaluate that.
Yeah.
Do I suck? Am I delivering the same product today that I promised I would deliver yesterday? And that's a humbling situation because sometimes you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
What, when you look at that, speaking of being humble and making those mistakes, is there like a big mistake or failure or lesson learned that was one that kind of knocked you to your knees that you're like, oh, I learned a lot from that mess up?
Sweet Jesus, how much time we have? I mean,
That's what I love about you.
I mean, man, there's so many things that you learn when it's all on you. You know, if I'm a CEO, I'll give you an example. I tried to explain this to my wife the other day, and she was like, I never saw it that way. I'm a CEO. You pay me $20 million to come in here and run your company. Whether the company succeeds or not, I still get paid. Chances are, if you fire me early, you still have to pay me. I'm playing with what I call house money.
Yep.
It's not my money. But if I'm a business owner and that $20 million that I'm paying myself is predicated on my performance, meaning if my business fails, I don't get paid. Yet that's not the same thing. That means that I have to make this work for my customers so that I can reap the benefits. That is where most people fall apart. They have this corporate mentality, which is great if you're working for someone else.
Right.
When you're working for yourself, you physically, mentally, emotionally, financially cannot afford to make those mistakes. And when you do, oh man, they hit hard.
Right.
I've hired the wrong people. I've bought the wrong equipment. Hell, I lost a client because I showed up to I got a call and I show up and I just happened to be driving a very expensive car of mine at the time. And I thought I had it in the bag. It was an inner house referral. The guy was my friend. Calls me up. He says, yeah, man, the CEO, he was the CFO. The CEO is not going to hire you. Why? What happened? Yeah, he said that you can't be driving a better car than him. I'm like, so you're telling me jealousy is the reason why? Okay, fine. I'm trading in my Bentley. I'm getting a Ford F-150, I guess. Whatever, dude. But it cost me a client, and I learned a lot from that.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, those situations that you didn't even take into consideration that you learned so much from. And you're right. It's 100% different ownership mentality when it is your baby and you're growing it and, you know, working for yourself. Where do you think that mindset of yours came from? Where this you know, yes, there's things that you learned in the military, of course, in terms of detail and precision and timeliness and living up to your word and being ethical and many of those traits. What do you think the mindset of I've got to find a system where I can duplicate my efforts. I've got to find a model where it's something that people need over and over again. Toilets are going to get dirty over and over again. That's never going away. So what's the mindset that you had that allowed you, or where did you learn that from?
I've been very fortunate to have people pull me aside and give me bits and pieces of information throughout my life from the time I was a child. You know, and a lot of times children hear people talk and, you know, you just blow them off. You're old. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Well, I used to listen. And I always thought to myself, man, you know, the only way for me to do what it is that I want to do that's in my head is to have something that is mine, that I can scale, which is why I have no partners. 22 years, no partners. I owe no one any money. If the company needs a loan, I will loan my company the money personally and then pay myself back at 12% interest. But I learned that from a friend of mine as well. But so I always took these little pieces of information and I adopted those. And before I started my business, I literally sat down and I wrote down on a piece of paper what my goals were. What am I trying to accomplish? Do I want to work when I'm 60, 65 years old? Absolutely not. I don't know anyone that does. Unless you love what you do and you do it for free, then you probably don't want to work in those years. And so I had to ask myself some very hard questions: how to get there? How am I going to make this happen? Is this even possible? And I had to educate myself and come up with a system, because there's not a system out there that exists.
Right.
Even if you buy a franchise, I'm still bound by their rules and regulations. And if they say I have to come in, then I have to come in. And so I had to create a system that worked for me and for my business.
That's awesome. And so today, I know that you work on your business, but you do not work a whole lot in your business, if I'm understanding correctly. Yes? What does it look like today?
Is this full transparency?
Of course it is. I mean, as transparent as you want to be, which I would hope would be 100%.
Oh, I always love you, and we have a great time. So I am 48 years old. I have been all but retired for the last 3 years. I travel a lot.
Yep.
I don't owe anybody anything.
Yep.
And I may work a total of maybe 5 hours a month.
And do you attribute that to a great team? Do you attribute that to, what do you attribute to?
I attribute it to forward thinking, being goal-oriented and disciplined. I cannot explain to you how much discipline comes into play, because we all have these great ideas starting out the gate. But are you disciplined enough to see it through even when you can't see through the fog? Stay the course. And then I attribute it to my management team, my employees. I have my longest tenured employee has been with me 21 years.
Wow.
That is a very long time to be doing anything, much less janitorial.
Right.
And so I always treat my people well. I always buy brand new, great equipment. I had a guy, he wasn't feeling good. He was just sick. I called him up today, and I thought he was going to cry over the phone, because I called him just to check in on him, see how he's doing. I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I'm just checking on you, man.
Yeah.
So my team and my employees really allow me to be able to disconnect, because they take a ownership role in the roles that they have, which is great.
Yeah. So you've empowered them to have that autonomy and decision making and handle it and all of that, which has allowed you the freedom and flexibility to do what you want in your time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
In conjunction with, hey, I'm always available, which no one calls me or anything anymore. They'd rather I just stay out of the way. But if somebody needs me, I'm always available.
Sure.
And I believe in that. I'm not just going to leave you on an island.
Yeah.
We're in this thing together. You know what I mean? Same boat. It's just that my oar's a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, I promised you when you walked into the studio that I had a few fun questions that I think, and the reason I ask these is very purposeful. I believe, this is the gospel according to Jody, but I personally believe that it's really important for business owners to understand, the whys and hows of the person behind the business. And so that's the reason for these questions. Before we dive into those, though, I do want to ask you, I know that we know each other from a lot of different community involvement, different organizations and boards, and I know that you have been highly involved with the BBB. You were, for many, how many years now?
I think it now is going on 8 years I've been on the board.
8 years on the board. So when you think back about all of your years of involvement, because obviously being on a board is a choice and being engaged with any organizations is a choice, what is it about your time with the BBB that's been the most beneficial, fruitful? Why? Why 8 years? Why are you so engaged, and what have you gained from the experience?
At one point over the last decade, I have been involved and or on the board of about 11 different associations and organizations. Wow. I have served my time on those, and I have all but relinquished those positions except for the BBB. And I'm glad you asked that question, because the reason why is I love the BBB here and what it is that they're doing, and Matt and the team, and I mean people like you who are on the board with me that get to, hang out and not just talk about change, but actually see that change through. And we come out the other side and we're like, you know what? Collectively, we made the right decision.
Yeah.
And we are moving forward. We are moving the needle. We are making a difference. People do want to be part of the BBB. Hell, before I was on the board, I didn't even want to be a member of the BBB because it was just negative all the time.
Right.
When they called you, like, oh, somebody complained.
Yeah.
And now it's not like that. The resources that we offer to the community, unsurpassed.
Right.
It's just unreal the amount of outsourcing and research that the BBB has done to be part of the community in ways that most BBBs aren't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love that, because I think a lot of people do think of the BBB in some very old school, your parents or grandparents' BBB from years ago. It's a complaint center, which is it's a a portion, yet such a small portion in the big landscape of all of the resources that are available for businesses. And yeah, I appreciate that. Well, and thank you for all of your years of service.
It's easy because it's true.
It is very much so. I agree wholeheartedly. Well, let's jump into some fun questions. I want to know, Chris Sharfner, what is your favorite word?
Is this sanctioned? Is this?
Let's keep it somewhat PG. So let's not go down like the swear word.
Okay. My first is the F word, because if properly used, it just has the effect that no other word has. And yes, there is a connection between intelligence and cursing. Just go and ask Harvard; they'll tell you. But my favorite word in the English dictionary is probably acceptance. And the reason why is because the word acceptance doesn't mean you have to understand it. It doesn't even mean that you have to respect it. You don't have to get it, but you accept it because you're humble enough to understand you don't know everything. You haven't been through what somebody else has been through. So shut up and accept it.
I love that. Yes, and yes. Love that. So, contrary to that, what is your least favorite word?
I can't. Don't tell me I can't.
Right.
Because you can.
Yeah.
You don't want to, but you can.
I love that.
Yeah.
So true. What would you say turns you on creatively, emotionally, spiritually? What lights your fire?
Restoring faith in humanity in small increments. What I mean by that is every time, because unfortunately our news is all negative. A lot of things are negative, okay? Social media, negative, normally it ends up there, and that's too bad, and that's terrible. But when you start to see pieces of humanity, and unfortunately, I was explaining this to someone the other day, the reason why you see it in big, bulky segments is when tragedy happens, and that's sad. For example, the fires in California, okay? Everyone's rallying together. Why didn't you rally together when there was no fire? Everybody's at each other's throats, right? I like the small, incremental pieces of humanity that happen on a daily basis that remind me, you know what? This still is a good world. There are still good people out there. People do still care, and it refuels my passion to continue to try to be a good person.
I love that. I love that. So what would turn you off then?
Oh, man. Selfishness. Look at me. I cannot stand that. If you're good enough, guess what? You're going to stand out anyway. And listen, we're all in the same game, just different level, same hell, different devil. So there's commonalities no matter who you are. I don't care if you make $10,000 a year or if you make $10 million a year. We still have a lot in common. And so at the end of the day, we're all humans just trying to make it. That's it.
100%. All for that. Absolutely. What sound or noise do you love?
Ooh, well, I am a new grandfather.
Yes, you are.
3 months now. And there is something about the sounds that a grandchild makes, not your own child. When you're an adult and that baby starts making noises, you're like, okay, look, hey, man, I love you, but you better take this bottle. But when you're a grandparent, for some reason, it's like music to your ears. When they cry or they coo or they calm down because you're holding them, things like that. I love the sound of essentially innocence.
I love that. So what sound or noise do you hate?
Bitching, complaining, any type of complaining. I don't care what it is.
That is not in your DNA.
No,
you do not have that.
Really?
No.
I mean, we already got to go through it. Now you're going to complain and make it worse? Come on, man. I just can't I can't stand the sound of complaining.
I'm with you on that. So what, if you were to start over, what profession would you love to attempt?
Oh, man. Honestly? Again, I'm only sharing this with you.
Oh, just you, me, and a couple people.
Well,
maybe.
Just
a couple 100,000.
I would prefer to write children's books.
What? What?
No one knows that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you know me, and you know I love to hold people accountable to their dreams.
I am personally working on 2 children's books currently.
I love this.
And I did not realize how enjoyable it was going to be and cathartic for me.
I love this.
And I'm really enjoying it.
That's really cool. So was the grandbaby, the impetus to this?
No, because I started writing them years ago.
Oh, okay.
But you get off track, and and so over the last year and a half, I've really kind of taken a dive back into that because
Super
it really
cool.
interests me.
That is really, really cool. So what profession would you never want to attempt?
Oh, sweet Jesus. I would never, there's a million. Oh my God. I would never want to be like an oil rigger or, wild Alaskan crab fisherman. I don't want to be that. I would never want to be president. I'm not going to lie.
No.
It's too much.
Oh my God.
You're going to be wrong every day. Okay?
I just had this conversation. Like, who would sign up for that?
Who would sign up for that? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't want to be an elementary school teacher right now. Mm-hmm. Probably wouldn't want to be a police officer.
Yeah.
You've
got a long list, my friend.
I'm telling you, man, there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there. So, yeah.
Well, one more of the fun questions, which is, if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You? Really? No, I'm just.
Not what will he or she say.
Not what will. Okay. You mean what I want?
Yes, want is different.
Yeah, that's vastly different. That is vastly different. Honestly, just something simple like, hey, you know what? You did the most with what you had, and you left an impression. I do believe that if we all can at least have an impression on just one person, just one, that you start to build a legacy with that, because now you're changing somebody's life for the better. Mm-hmm. And there's no amount of money that is worth that. Yeah. So I would hope that the big guy or girl upstairs would say, hey, man, you did your thing, and you didn't waste it.
Yeah.
You didn't waste it.
I love that.
That would, to me, would be, that would hit home.
I love that. With all the years that I've known you, my friend, I can promise you that that is in the cards. A long time from now. Long time from now.
Yeah, hopefully.
Long time from now. But you have made an impression, an indelible mark, certainly on me personally and my family, but also just in the community that you serve. I know the BBB feels the same way, and all the various organizations you're a part of. So,
well, I appreciate that.
You have given a lot. So we all have gained from that, and certainly our time today. And I want to wrap up. I have a final question, because this is the Leadership Lowdown. So what is one tip you would give our listeners today? So business leaders, what's one juicy nugget you can share with them?
Do not be afraid to fail, because I'm going to tell you this right now. I've had some successes in life. I learned nothing. When I failed, I learned a lot. Don't be afraid to fail. It is part of the process. Yep. Just try to fail small, not big. Yeah.
Small failures are good.
Try to fail small.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes and probably mantras of life is risking nothing is risking everything.
It is.
You got to take the risk. You calculate it. You got to be smart about it. But same thing. It's like, if you don't fail, what do you learn?
Right. Even doing nothing is doing something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to try, man. And if you're not willing to try, then you know what? Stop bitching about your circumstances.
Yeah, 100%.
Get in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love your passion. I love your enthusiasm. I love the way that you have created a business that allows you to live the lifestyle that you've dreamed of, and you've made it happen, and you're so inspiring. And I just appreciate you as a human being and as a dear friend. So thank you for sharing your history and story with us today. And I know our listeners gained a ton from it. So thank you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate being here at the BBB and everybody that goes into this entire production. And if anybody ever wants to reach out, I'm here.
Yay. I love it. Well, I'm sure they will. All of your info will be included by all means. So thank you so much. And until next time, this has been the Leadership Lowdown with your host, Jody Lowe. Thank you for joining us. And remember, leaders are learners. So stay curious and keep leading with love.